Thing about offence, isn't it? When people say they're offended, it's that just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right. You know, it's feelings are personal. Some people are offended by equality. So what? You know, so you can't second-guess people. If you try and please everyone, you'll please no one.
Ricky Gervais is no stranger to controversy. Whether he's roasting Hollywood elites or calling out cancel culture, he never holds back. And this time was no different. In a recent interview, he took aim at The View and Hollywood's obsession with political correctness, delivering a brutal reality check that left Whoopi Goldberg completely stunned. Guess what? The clash was unfiltered. The tension was impossible to ignore. Even the audience was loving every second of it. So what exactly did Ricky say that had Whoopi lost for words? Stick around because this one gets brutal.
Once upon a time in Hollywood, nearly 3 hours long, Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end, his date was too old for him. So...
Ricky Gervais has never been one to hold back. Whether he's roasting Hollywood at the Golden Globes or tearing apart cancel culture in his stand-up specials, he speaks his mind. Consequences be damned, and this time was no different. In his latest appearance, he took aim at political correctness, the growing obsession with offense, and the fragile state of modern comedy. But not everyone in the room was laughing. Whoopi Goldberg, a longtime advocate for social awareness, found herself at odds with Ricky's unfiltered views. When the topic of his controversial humor came up, Ricky didn't just defend himself, he doubled down, delivering a brutal reality check.
Offended, it's that just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right. You know, this is about feelings, and feelings are personal. Some people are offended by equality. So what? You know, so you can't second-guess people. If you try and please everyone, you'll please...
Boom! Mic drop. The air in the room shifted. Some laughed, others squirmed. But one thing was certain. Ricky had made his point, loud and clear. And Whoopi, she was left speechless. At this moment, Whoopi's face froze. You could almost see the wheels turning in her head as she tried to process what had just been said. For a split second, the room felt tense. Everyone could sense that she was gearing up for a response. She shifted in her seat, straightened up, and with a measured tone asked, "But Ricky, don't you think comedians should be more responsible with their jokes?" Ricky smirked. Not just any smirk, the kind that said he had been waiting for this exact moment. He leaned in slightly, exuding confidence, as if this was the question he wanted her to ask all along. The audience chuckled, sensing what was coming next. But Whoopi, she wasn't laughing. Determined to make her point, she pressed further, arguing that humor should evolve with the times, that comedians have a responsibility to be mindful of the impact of their words, especially in today's world, where a joke can spark outrage overnight. But Ricky? He wasn't buying it. His expression didn't change, and he didn't back down.
Feelings and feelings are personal. Some people are offended by equality. So what? You know, so you can't second-guess people. If you try and please everyone, you'll please no.
At this point, Whoopi's frustration was visible. She shook her head, exasperated, her usual composure starting to crack. The tension in the room thickened, and then Ricky went in for the kill. Whatever he said next sent the crowd over the edge. Laughter erupted. Applause followed. Even the co-hosts couldn't hide their reactions. The entire moment had shifted in Ricky's favor, and Whoopi knew it. She had no comeback, no witty retort, no last word victory. Instead, she forced a tight-lipped smile, the kind you give when you know you've lost an argument but refuse to admit it. She sat back, arms crossed, nodding slightly as if to say, "Fine, you got me this time." But everyone watching knew the truth. Ricky had just dominated the debate. At this point, Ricky had completely taken control of the conversation, steering it exactly where he wanted. He didn't just defend comedy, he made it clear that the very essence of humor was under attack. Comedy is supposed to be dangerous. It's supposed to make you think. If we start tiptoeing around every topic, we might as well stop telling jokes altogether, he stated, his tone sharp yet effortless. The room fell silent as he continued, exposing the growing fear comedians face when tackling controversial topics. To drive his point home, he referenced one of his most infamous moments, the Golden Globes monologue that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. "I didn't do that for the celebrities in the room. I did it for the 200 million people watching at home who don't live in a bubble," he declared. Another brutal reality check. The difference between Hollywood and the real world had never been so glaring, and Ricky, he wasn't backing down. By now, Whoopi knew she had lost the battle. She let out a deep sigh, shifting in her seat as the tension in the room became almost palpable. Ricky wasn't backing down, and the audience could feel it. The air crackled with anticipation. Who would have the last word? With a forced chuckle, Whoopi attempted one final parting shot. "Well, Ricky, I hope people still think you're funny in 10 years, she said, raising an eyebrow as if to suggest his humor had an expiration date. Her tone was light, but the underlying jab was clear. Ricky barely missed a beat. He turned to her with that signature Gervais smirk, the kind that told everyone in the room he had already won. Then, with perfect comedic timing, he fired back, saying, "If they don't, I'll still be rich." Boom! Another knockout punch. The audience erupted. Laughter, cheers, even a few gasps. He had delivered the ultimate mic drop. Even some of Whoopi's co-hosts, who had been trying to keep straight faces, cracked smiles. The sheer confidence, the effortless wit, it was classic Ricky Gervais. He wasn't just making a point, he was putting on a masterclass in comedic dominance. Whoopi, she just sat back, shaking her head, realizing she had walked straight into that one. She tried to laugh it off, but the look on her face said it all. Ricky had come prepared, and no amount of TV-friendly banter was going to shake him. In that moment, it wasn't just a clash of opinions, it was a clash of worlds. Old-school Hollywood political correctness versus unapologetic, no-holds-barred comedy. And if the roaring reaction from the audience was anything to go by, it was clear who had come out on top. After Ricky Gervais's no-holds-barred comments on free speech and political correctness, the internet exploded in a firestorm of debate. His unapologetic stance sparked a fierce cultural divide. Some hailed him as a fearless defender of comedy, unafraid to push boundaries and challenge societal norms. Fans praised his brutal honesty, arguing that comedy should remain an open forum for all ideas, no matter how uncomfortable. On the other side, critics slammed his approach, insisting that humor must evolve with the times. They argued that comedians have a responsibility to be mindful of their impact, particularly on marginalized communities. To them, Gervais's jokes weren't just edgy, they were outdated and tone-deaf. Some even called for boycotts, claiming his humor crossed a line into insensitivity rather than wit. Social media became a battleground. Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok were flooded with clips of the interview, dissected from every angle. Supporters shared moments of his speech with captions like, "Comedy isn't a crime," and "Finally someone who tells it like it is." Meanwhile, detractors posted their own takes, accusing him of punching down instead of speaking truth to power. Even celebrities joined the fray. Fellow comedians split down the middle. Some defended Gervais' right to joke without fear of backlash, while others called for more responsible comedy, arguing that the world had changed and entertainers needed to change with it. Late-night talk shows and podcast hosts weighed in, turning the moment into a broader discussion about cancel culture, artistic freedom, and the fine line between comedy and offense. Whether people loved or hated what he said, one thing was undeniable. Ricky Gervais had once again ignited a conversation that wasn't going away anytime soon. This debate is nothing new. In an era where cancel culture dominates public discourse, comedians like Ricky Gervais constantly find themselves at the center of controversy. It raises an age-old question: should comedy have boundaries? Or should it remain an unfiltered space where no topic is off limits? For Gervais, the answer is clear. Comedy is meant to challenge perspectives, push boundaries, and most importantly, entertain. He argues that offense is subjective. What one person finds hilarious, another might find offensive. But does that mean comedians should censor themselves for fear of backlash? Or should audiences simply choose what they consume instead of policing humor? Even Whoopi Goldberg, despite advocating for social responsibility in comedy, has faced backlash for her own controversial remarks in the past. This only complicates the discussion. If even seasoned comedians can be called out for their words, where exactly is the line between humor and harm? Some argue that comedy should evolve alongside society, ensuring that humor doesn't come at the expense of marginalized groups. Others, like Gervais, believe that comedy loses its essence when forced into a politically correct mold, fearing that excessive sensitivity stifles creativity and open discussion. At its core, this isn't just a debate about comedy, it's about free speech, changing cultural values, and the power of public opinion. Should comedians be held accountable for offending audiences? Or should we accept that comedy, by its nature, will always provoke different reactions? And if we start policing jokes, where does it end? Gervais's words remind us of the importance of comedy in difficult times. Whether you agree with his style or not, there's no denying that humor is a powerful tool. It can spark discussions, highlight societal absurdities, and even provide comfort in the darkest moments. So what do you think? Should comedians be free to joke about anything? Or should they be more mindful of the impact of their words? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more thought-provoking discussions.